Hello, and welcome to today's Dorset Council Local Plan webinar, this time on Northern Dorset and design. Our speakers today are Robert MacDonald, Senior Planning Officer, Philip Rees, Senior Planning Policy Officer, and Sophie Duke, Senior Urban Designer. I'm Councillor David Walsh, Portfolio Holder for Planning at Dorset Council, and one of 3 ward members covering the Gillingham area. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you of a few housekeeping points that will help you get the most out of this session. The speaker's presentation will run for approximately 20-25 minutes. Following this, we will answer the questions that we have received. Any further questions will either be answered on our website or, if applicable, at a different webinar. Go to www.dorsetcouncil.gov.uk and search Dorset Council Local Plan webinars for more details. If you lose connection to the session, then please try rejoining. You may want to ensure that your Wi-Fi is at an optimum level by disconnecting all other devices that use Wi-Fi. You might be wondering then what a local plan is and why it is so important. A local plan sets out the future of Dorset until 2038. That's a 17-year timescale. I like to look at it as it's from birth to getting your provisional driving licence. That's quite an enormous timescale. It outlines the strategy for the growth Dorset needs. So housing, jobs, shops, community services such as schools are in the right places and are of the right quality and character. It also helps to protect our unique environment and acts to help alleviate our impacts on the climate. To help us plan for you, your children's and your grandchildren's future, we need you to get involved. Our consultation lasts until the 15th of March. It will have run for an 8-week period. This is more than a normal consultation as set out in our Statement of Community Involvement. Because we are consulting whilst in lockdown, we wanted to take a little longer and try to ensure that we got as many people as possible to know about the plan and have time to respond and have their say. Unfortunately, we cannot take any longer, as this could delay the adoption of the local plan, and we need to progress with the plan to help us manage development appropriately. Go to www.dorset.council.gov.uk/Dorset Council Local Plan for more details, and tell your friends and family about the plan to help them have their say. Anyway, back to this webinar. It sets out how the proposals for the Northern Dorset were designed, what is proposed, and how the local plan incorporates design. So I'll now hand you over to Rob MacDonald to help us understand more about these proposals.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. I'm Rob, Senior Planning Officer, and we're going to talk to you about the Northern Dorset area in today's webinar. As with all of our place-based webinars, it will focus on 2 distinct areas of discussion. Firstly, I'll discuss the Northern Dorset area and its role in the Dorset Council Local Plan. Then Philip will take us through the various settlements and talk a little bit about what the local plan proposes for new housing or employment. Following this, Sophie, our Senior Urban Designer, will help us to understand how design is used in planning and what we propose for the Dorset Council Local Plan. I'm going to start by talking about the Dorset Council Local Plan strategy for the Northern Dorset area and how it was developed. Local plans must provide for enough homes and employment land. Our plan must provide enough space for just over 30,000 homes over the plan period. That is between 2021 and 2038. This target is set by national government, and we as a local authority must decide where these homes should go. To help us decide, we have divided the Dorset Council area up into what we call functional areas. These reflect where housing and economic markets strongly influence the need and demand for new homes and employment land in different ways. We have identified 4 broad housing and economic market areas across Dorset, one of which is the Northern Dorset area. If you're interested in knowing more about the functional areas, please watch our distribution of development webinar on the Council's YouTube channel. And if you want to know more about how the housing numbers are derived, please take a look at our housing webinar. However, this webinar concentrates on the Northern Dorset functional area, which includes the towns of Gillingham, Shaftesbury and Sherborne, as well as Sturminster Newton and Stalbridge. Now, the map on the current slide illustrates that the shape of northern area is quite long and thin. This shape is largely influenced by the east-west transport corridors in this area, such as the A303. The area is also shaped by the physical geography. The southern boundary consists of a series of hills courtesy of the Dorset Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty and the Cranbourne Chase Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, and these hills form a natural obstacle and help explain why the north-south transport links are often not as good. Now we've considered the wider context, let's have a look closer at the northern area. The northern Dorset area can be characterised as a largely rural area with a number of smaller market towns and traditional villages. We understand that it has features that make it special and unique, and it is our intention to protect them and enhance them wherever possible, while at the same time accommodating a proportionate amount of new development. In preparing the plan, we have tried to consider all the constraints and issues in order to come up with an appropriate set of development proposals. In northern Dorset, this includes areas of high landscape value. Although the majority of the area is not designated as Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, we know it is still highly valued. In particular, the Blackmore Vale is the predominant landscape in this area, and it is characterised by lush green, low-lying land. Important views across the Vale can be had from vantage points on the surrounding hills. There's also a high-quality historic environment, which includes everything from churches, hill forts, and ancient burial sites. These need preserving for future generations. There's flood risk, as a lot of the sea is low-lying. A lot of the area is low-lying. Flooding is an issue in many parts of the area. An older than average population we have. This means that in time there will be a greater need for more specialist accommodation to support them. And there's high house prices, which are often unaffordable, especially to younger people. It's a remote rural area where shops, schools, and other services are not easily accessible, and poor public transport, meaning that many residents rely on a car in order to travel. We also need to have regard to national policy. This includes taking account of a range of environmental constraints, and this topic is discussed in more detail in the Distribution of Development webinar. We should also be aware of the opportunities that planning offers us to help deliver a range of benefits and address local issues. For instance, the local plan can reduce the need to travel by locating development at the larger settlements. It also helps protect the countryside and encourages the reuse of redundant sites by placing strict limits on the type of development that can happen in the countryside. It can help create jobs by providing sufficient land to meet the needs of businesses in the area. And by allowing some settlements to grow, it can help make them more self-sufficient as new and improved services and infrastructure become more feasible. Now, I'll now hand over to Philip, who will explain how these issues and opportunities in the northern Dorset area have informed the strategy for development and what growth we feel is appropriate in this area.
Thank you, Rob. Hello, everyone. My name is Philip Rees, and I'm a Senior Policy Planner at Dorset Council. I'm going to discuss our development proposals for Northern Dorset. First of all, I would like to give a brief overview of our proposed settlement hierarchy. This places settlements into one of three tiers. Larger settlements with more facilities are in the higher tiers, and smaller settlements with fewer facilities are in the lower tiers. The highest tier is Tier 1. It includes Dorchester and Weymouth, and also settlements that form part of the wider Bournemouth Pool conurbation. Northern Dorset does not have any settlements in Tier 1. The next tier down, Tier 2, includes towns. There are 5 towns in Northern Dorset in Tier 2. They are Gillingham, Shaftesbury, Sherborne, Sturminster Newton and Stalbridge. As the local plan tries to direct development towards the largest and most sustainable settlements, this means that in Northern Dorset we are proposing the majority of growth to be located at these towns. Tier 3 includes the larger villages. The local plan identifies 13 of these in the northern Dorset area. We think we can accommodate sufficient growth of the Tier 2 towns in northern Dorset, so we don't think it is necessary to identify development sites at any of the Tier 3 villages. So let's have a look at the towns in more detail. Starting with Gillingham. It's Dorset's most northerly town and has an estimated population of around 12,000 people. The town experienced a lot of growth between 1990 and 2010. However, there has been almost no growth in the last 10 years. It is close to the A303 and has a railway station on the London to Exeter line. One of its distinctive features is that it is at the confluence of 3 rivers. It has a fair share of heritage assets, including a Grade 1 church, 4 scheduled monuments and 4 conservation areas. It also has a neighbourhood plan, which was made in 2018. So, what are we proposing? The largest allocation is for 1,800 homes to the south of the town. If you can see the slide, this is shown as the large areas of grey hatching towards the bottom of the map. This is not a new allocation. It was originally included in the 2016 North Dorset Local Plan. Because of its size and complexity, the area is taking longer than anticipated to get planning permission, but we are expecting some construction work to start this year. Also carried over from the North Dorset Local Plan is the allocation for mixed-use regeneration in the Station Road area. We estimate this could deliver around 200 homes in a brownfield site next to the town centre. In terms of new allocations, we are proposing to allocate land at Common Mead Lane to the west of the town for around 70 homes. This is a small orange area on the map. In addition, we are seeking views on a second urban extension to the northwest of the town, shown as the large orange area on the map. We think this could have the capacity for around 600 homes. We are asking for views on this option and the implications for the town if it were to be allocated. Potentially, it may only be needed once the southern extension has been completed, and this is likely to be towards the end of the plan period. In terms of employment land, approximately 11 hectares is identified to the south of Brickfields Business Park. There is also just over 1 hectare remaining at Kingsmead Business Park. These are shown as the large and the small brown areas on the map. Turning to Shaftesbury, which is a neighbouring town to Gillingham. It is slightly smaller and has a population of just under 9,000 people. It's famous as a hilltop town, immortalised by the 70s Hovis advert, and is popular with tourists for its panoramic views across the surrounding vales. It also has a range of heritage assets, including 6 scheduled monuments and 280 listed buildings. The town has produced a neighbourhood plan, and this should go to referendum in May. The town has seen significant growth in recent years, particularly on the eastern side. This expansion has now reached the boundary of the land that is being reserved for a bypass corridor. The proposed bypass is part of a long-term aim to improve the A350 north-south route. However, funding towards the scheme remains uncertain. In the meantime, we propose to retain the land reserved for this corridor, as Highways England are undertaking a feasibility study into the delivery of a north-south route. Slightly to the north and the east is the county of Wiltshire. Land in this area is outside the control of the Dorset Council Local Plan. So, having considered these issues, we believe that the options for further growth are limited. Therefore, we are proposing not to make any further allocations at Shaftesbury for now. There are still a number of existing commitments. In terms of housing, land south east of Wincoln Business Park has planning permission for 190 homes. Land west of Littledown is currently being built for 170 homes, and land at Higher Blandford Road has outlined consent for 55 homes. These are shown as very green areas on the map. In terms of employment land, we are confirming that the large area of land south of the A30 should continue to be reserved for this use. This is shown as the brown area in the bottom right-hand side of the map. Turning now to Sherborne. Sherborne is an attractive and distinctive town with a population just under 10,000. It has a large number of heritage assets, including the Abbey and the Castle. In terms of its local economy, it has a number of small independent businesses and also has several private schools. It has strong links to Yeovil, which lies 6 miles to the west, and like Gillingham, it has a railway station. There are a number of existing allocations at Sherborne from the previous local plan. These are land at Barton Farm, which is being developed for housing, employment and community uses. Land at Sherborne Hotel, which will be an important gateway site to the town. And the former gasworks site. This is a brownfield site close to the town centre. Together, these should deliver around 270 dwellings and 3 hectares of employment land. In addition, we're proposing further growth to the west of the town. 3 areas are proposed for development. These are shown as the orange areas on the map. These areas will be master planned to coordinate their delivery. The areas will deliver highway improvements and may well continue to be developed beyond the end of the plan period. In total, these additional sites should provide around 1,200 homes and around 5 hectares of employment land. Next is Sturminster Newton. Sturminster Newton is a smaller market town with a population of around 4,500 people. It consists of 2 separate parts, with the River Stour running between them. For its size, the town provides a good range of services. It also has a number of heritage assets, including scheduled monuments, a conservation area, and listed buildings. It has an adopted neighbourhood plan. Amongst other things, this plan allocates 12 sites for housing, which should deliver around 500 dwellings over the plan period. In terms of employment development, there are remaining plots at the nearby North Dorset Business Park. Due to the environmental constraints and the growth proposed through the neighbourhood plan, we feel that further options are limited. We are therefore not proposing any further allocations for growth at Sturminster Newton. And finally, move into Stalbridge. Stalbridge is the smallest town in the northern area with a population of around 3,500. The town currently lacks certain facilities like a GP surgery and a secondary school. The town has links with the neighbouring town of Sturminster Newton. It is also near to the Somerset border and so has links to nearby Henstridge and Temple Combe. In terms of its heritage, it has a historic core defined by a conservation area. The conservation area includes some neighbouring fields which help form the setting of the town. Otherwise, the town has fewer constraints than many other settlements. In terms of housing, we're proposing growth to the east and south. This is across 4 sites, 2 of which already have planning permission, shown as the green areas on the map, and the other 2 are currently subject to live planning applications, shown as the orange areas on the map. Together, these could deliver approximately 600 new homes. In terms of employment land, there is a small area of land that remains undeveloped, next to Station Road Business Park. The North Dorset Trailway is a popular recreational route which currently runs between Sturminster Newton and Blandford. One opportunity that could be realised using funding from new development is to extend the North Dorset Trailway to Stalbridge and possibly beyond. I'll now hand over to Sophie Duke, who will talk about urban design policies in the local plan.
Thank you, Philip. As Councillor Walsh mentioned at the beginning, I am the Senior Urban Designer for Dorset Council, and I work within a dedicated team of professionally qualified urban designers and landscape architects. The team sits within spatial policy, so our role is twofold. We have a significant input into planning policy and have written the design and landscape policies for this emerging local plan. And we also act as a consultee for major planning applications. This part of the webinar will focus on design and the role it plays in helping the Council to meet its key strategic objectives for sustainable development, and how the specialist officers within the team can add value by effectively supporting the planning department and indeed the wider Council in achieving these priorities. Firstly, though, I'm going to explain a bit about what urban design is, as it's one of those specialisms that isn't always fully understood. Urban design is the collaborative and multidisciplinary process of creating quality places, whether it's a new community, the regeneration of a town centre, or an infill scheme within an existing town or village. We work closely with development management, landscape architects, the natural environment team, conservation, highways, and developers to achieve high quality placemaking. Urban design is an essential part of our everyday life, even if you don't realise it, because the quality of places affect us all, where we live, work, and spend our leisure time. High quality places have a major influence on the environment, the economy, and on people's health and well-being. It's the role of an urban designer to ensure that new developments are functional, attractive, and long-lasting, so that people can successfully use them, enjoy spending time in them, and feel safe with a sense of belonging and community cohesion now and for many years to come. It is what is commonly referred to as placemaking. The National Planning Policy Framework clearly states that the creation of high quality buildings and places is fundamental to what the planning and development process should achieve. The framework goes on to say that it expects planners to refuse developments if they fail to improve the character or quality of an area and the way it functions, and that only proposals that are sympathetic to local character, history, and landscape setting should be approved. This means that places have to be well laid out, have suitable and effective landscaping with high quality architectural design and materials that bring variety and vibrancy to an area and contribute to local distinctiveness. In fact, as a result of the independent body Building Better, Building Beautiful, who advised the government on how to promote and increase the use of high quality design in new build homes and neighbourhoods, the government is currently in the process of amending the NPPF to strengthen its commitment to ensuring that local planning policies set out clear strategies for the pattern, scale, and design quality of developments. In 2019, the National Design Guide was published. It is a key document that forms part of the government's increased focus on high quality design and shows what good placemaking should look like in practice. It sets out a blueprint for how local authorities can bring about quality design and also recommends what developers need to consider and deliver when proposing and building new places. Based on 10 key characteristics, it clearly illustrates how places that are beautiful, healthy, greener, enduring, and successful can be achieved. The NPPF and the National Design Guide give planning authorities a steer clear to refuse applications that do not enhance the quality of an area. And this policy basis is then translated to a local level in the form of the design policy in the local plan. The draft Dorset Local Plan recognises the unique character of our county, beautiful, iconic landscapes that are mingled with historic villages and towns. It's a very special place to live, work and visit, and we must continue to recognise the value that this has on natural habitats and biodiversity, on people's health and well-being, and on the local economy, whilst also recognising the need for future development and the impact that it will have on climate change. The specialist team that includes urban designers and landscape architects work closely together, especially when we are assessing the impact of development on the surrounding towns and landscape. Together, we are committed to balancing the need to protect and enhance the county's unique character, with helping to deliver the council's overarching objective of delivering high quality, sustainable development. In planning terms, sustainable development has three objectives which are mutually supportive: an environmental, a social, and an economic objective. Urban design plays a key role in ensuring that each one of these objectives is met, and the design policy in the draft local plan sets out a series of principles that proposals for new developments must adhere to in order to achieve these objectives. The design policy is closely linked to other policies in the local plan, particularly those that focus on landscape, heritage, transport, and other environmental issues, so that with an integrated approach, we have a strong set of strategic principles with which we can guide future development. To further strengthen the Council's role in ensuring high-quality design in new development, we will also be producing a supplementary planning document which will set out more detailed design expectations that developers will be expected to meet. This document will not stipulate specific architectural styles, but it will include more detailed guidance on the key principles that help to create high-quality places. Together with the policies in the local plan, the Council will be able to confidently negotiate a higher quality of placemaking with developers, and proposals that do not achieve this will be considered unacceptable. Dorset Council have declared a climate and ecological crisis. Never before has it been more critical to consider the environment when planning new developments, and in addressing this, the local plan is very clear in its objective to offer sustainable transport options, to build green infrastructure, ensure net gains in biodiversity, and to mitigate against the risk of flooding. In meeting this objective, the design policy in the local plan states that proposals for development must, where possible, provide multiple connections within and between existing built and natural environments, that routes must be designed to be easy to navigate through, safe and well overlooked, accessible to all users, and prioritise people above vehicles and encourage cycling and walking. Proposals for development should also retain and protect existing natural features and habitats, including trees, and include new networks of green spaces that connect to places beyond the immediate site area. The creation of these natural features have multiple benefits, such as improving our resilience to climate change, reducing the impact of built development on the surrounding landscape, supporting nature and biodiversity, and improving the quality of life for residents by providing recreation spaces. Integrated into this provision should also be sustainable urban drainage systems, or SUDs, that help to prevent flooding. If they are designed in an imaginative and innovative way, they can also deliver important gains in biodiversity and can therefore have a multifunctional benefit. and on a more detailed but no less important scale, all buildings, regardless of whether they have residential, industrial or commercial uses, must, as a minimum, meet national energy efficiency standards. The local plan's objective of delivering strong and healthy communities, sustainable transport options, suitable housing and town centre regeneration are all linked to the primary urban design objective of achieving high quality places. Key principles within the design policy ensure that this social objective is met, including the requirements that proposals must have a well thought out layout and detailed design of buildings so that people feel safe and the fear of crime and antisocial behaviour does not undermine their quality of life or social cohesion. The policy also requires that places have appropriate facilities or are well connected to existing facilities, so that where possible, residents can easily and safely access local shops, schools, sports and play spaces without having to use a car. In addition to this, the policy states that houses should have internal and external private spaces that are sufficient in size to ensure that occupants can undertake day-to-day tasks that contribute to their general well-being and a high-quality living environment. This includes being able to entertain, have space to work from home, garden, dry washing, and store items such as bikes, buggies, and bins. The key final objective that contributes to sustainable development is a thriving economy. Sustainable economic development in the right locations, including the provision of high-quality places for those who work in the area, will help our town centres regenerate and will also attract people who want to relocate to work in the county, thereby improving its economic prosperity. A design-led approach to development is crucial for successful placemaking and achieving high-quality sustainable design. The process should start with an analysis and clear understanding of the local built form and natural landscape setting, and demonstrate a clear and logical design process that responds to principles of good design as set out in the design policy. Documents such as master plans and design codes help to tell the story of this design evolution and are crucial in securing consistently high standards throughout the duration of the process, from the planning stages to implementation and build. The specialist team of urban designers and landscape architects encourage landowners and developers to engage with us at the earliest opportunity to ensure that a collaborative, proactive and positive approach to design is embedded from the very start of the planning process, so that their developments leave a lasting legacy of high quality placemaking for years to come. Dorset Council has the firm intention to significantly raise the standard of design and the quality of development across the county. And in this emerging local plan, the design and landscape-based policies set out how this will be achieved. But as I mentioned at the beginning, urban design and placemaking is a collaborative process. So as part of this consultation, we'd really like people to consider what makes their community special and what design and landscape policies are needed to ensure that any new development enhance the quality of where you live. Do you agree with the principles that have been set in these policies? And if not, what changes would you like to see? Now, it's back to Councillor Walsh for some questions.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Philip. I found that truly fascinating. I was actually excited. Now, is this because I come from the northern area? I come from Gillingham. Yes, and I hope people in my surrounding area will fill in the consultation, and I hope they'll come forward and say what they would like, what they don't like. We want to hear positives and negatives. Hearing Sophie speaking was fantastic. Using words like high quality development and placemaking. Now, I represent Dorset on the Town and Country Planning Association's New Communities Groups, where I advocate building communities, not knocking up houses. And yes, the figure of 30,481 houses over the next 17 years through the government standard methodology is quite a scary number. But after listening to Sophie, I feel reassured. I mean, how many people out there knew that we had such professionals as urban designers and landscape architects working on this plan? This is just one of many webinars, but I truly found it exciting. We are looking to make better places. People seem to think that development is a negative. But as we've heard from Sophie and from other people speaking in the previous webinars, development can be positive, and it should be positive. If it's not positive, why do it? We want to make better places, and I think Sophie really captured that. So that was brilliant. And I don't want to shut up now because I could speak for ages on this subject, I think, but I'm going to shut up because we've got questions. So if all of you would like to turn on your microphones and speakers, I'll go into the questions. And the first one is for Philip. Philip, why are you proposing growth at Stalbridge when there isn't even a GP surgery there?
Thank you, David. We're aware that Stalbridge had a GP surgery, but it was a one-man practice and recently closed due to retirement. So while we appreciate that many residents in Stalbridge would like a GP surgery as part of meeting their day-to-day needs within the town, our view is that by growing the town, it will help create a critical mass of residents, and this will help make a new GP practice viable. Additional residents should also help make other local shops and services more viable, and in general help the town to flourish.
Thank you, Philip. Rob, why are we not providing more growth at the villages and spreading development?
Thanks, David. The local plan seeks to focus development on those locations where there's a reasonable provision of facilities and services. This helps to reduce the need to travel and distance travels to access everyday facilities such as schools and employment. If development was spread across the area, there will be a greater reliance on car travel, which would result in more congestion at the towns, as well as increased greenhouse gas emissions. Also, the amount of development needed at a village to provide and sustain improved facilities is significant and would alter the characteristics of that rural area. We do not, however, prevent development at villages, as local communities have the ability to prepare a neighbourhood plan to bring about development that they want to meet local needs.
Thank you very much, Rob. Now, Sophie, isn't urban design only about building materials and the look of buildings?
No, not at all. Although it's an important part of our role too. Urban design has many elements to it, probably far too many to talk about here, but I'll try and be brief. It's about the creation of places and how they relate to their existing setting, and also whether they work as places to live or work in. So have proposals considered what's surrounding the site and what qualities from these places can be used to inspire new development? Are there existing views that need protecting, natural assets that can be enhanced, green spaces, shops, bus stops, schools that can be connected to? Can you easily find your way around a place, and are the streets well designed with parking that's close to the homes that they serve? Are buildings laid out so that they overlook streets and spaces? Are they at the right density and an appropriate height? And then, is the architectural design and building materials appropriate to the area and of a high quality? It's a long and detailed process, but it's really important that we get it right, because we're creating places that are going to be around for years to come.
Thank you so much. I love the words you're using. I love the placemaking and the quality. Okay, other people might not be as excited as I am, but I think this is really positive stuff. Philip, finally, what happens to our neighbourhood plan when this plan is adopted?
That's a good question. As Dorset has a large number of existing neighbourhood plans. Basically, neighbourhood plans should still be valid once the new local plan is adopted. In theory, the two should happily coexist, with local plans setting out the overall strategy for the area and neighbourhood plans providing more localised detail. However, there may be certain circumstances where there is a conflict between local plan policies and neighbourhood plan policies. In those cases, legislation says that the most recently adopted plan should take precedence. However, we hope that by working with the parish councils and neighbourhood planning groups, we can avoid any unnecessary conflicts. Also, the adoption of a new Dorset Council Local Plan might be a suitable time for communities to consider undertaking a review of their neighbourhood plans. This would bring the plans up to date and help ensure any potential conflicts are ironed out.
Thank you very much, Philip. And thank you, Rob, and thank you, Sophie. I know that people will have found this webinar very informative. I know I did. Now, just a reminder, any questions we did not get time for will be answered either as a different webinar or on our website within 2 weeks, along with a recorded presentation. Have a look at our webpage for more information on other webinars or podcasts if you're interested in other subjects. So thank you all again. Bye for now.